Welcome to Crafty Little Beach. This is Julie. Today I have a Dollar Tree DIY for you. I'm going to do a spring pillow using one of their new placemats with that beautiful spring pattern and one of their spring napkins. Now, since this already has a back on it, I really only need one of the placemats. What I'm going to do is take a seam ripper along one side of the placemat and just simply rip out the stitching. Then we can stuff it. But even though I think the placemat is beautiful, it's a very plain for a pillow. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to add that happy spring onto the pillow using decoupage with a fabric Mod Podge. So this turned out really well. It was so easy to make. I'm going to go ahead and rip out the entire seam just to make this a little bit easier to work with and make it more consistent on this side, but leaving the other three sides sewn. And we have a little pillowcase right now. Originally, I was going to use some HTV and my Cricut to make a message for this, and you totally could. But then I would challenge myself to try to use something from the Dollar Tree. And I think these spring napkins are so cute. The flowers are a little bit different, but I think we can make this work. I just cut out one square where it says Happy Spring, and it is a 2-ply napkin, so I'm going to go ahead and separate that. Now, normally when I decoupage, I would just use some water and do ripped edges all the way around. But since I'm adding this to fabric, I really want this to blend in. So I'm going to take my time and I am going to cut out that entire napkin so I won't have any edges at all. I'm going to be attaching it with some fabric Mod Podge, so I just slide some cardboard in between just to make sure I don't glue it shut because we want to stuff it and make this a spring pillow. Again, I took my time. I cut around every single one of these leaves on the outside. And I left the white border and stuff, on the inside where the message is and stuff like that. But I thought this would be better than to have the edges on it. I've used fabric Mod Podge before and it works really well. Supposedly you can even wash clothing with the fabric Mod Podge. I don't know. I'd be a little afraid to try it, but I think that this is going to work. So I just, again, take my time. I'm going to speed this way up. And I cut around every single one of these leaves. And I'm glad that I did take the extra time to do this because you have no edges whatsoever. It blends in seamlessly. The napkin is so thin, you can even see the fibers of the fabric through it. So it worked really well. Almost done cutting out around every single leaf. Now I kind of messed up a little bit here with the Mod Podge. Normally when I use this fabric Mod Podge, it's the blue kind like this. I add some to the back of whatever I'm applying to the fabric, and then I add some to the fabric too. Very thin coats because it's a very thick Mod Podge. I don't know what I was thinking though, because I really shouldn't attach it to the napkin. It's just way too thin. I tried to do a little thin coat and it started distorting the napkin, and I had spent so much time cutting that out. I was like, oh no, I don't want to run it. So I'm not going to add any more to that. I'm just going to start adding some of the fabric Mod Podge to the placemats. That's how I would encourage you to do it. Don't add any to the napkin itself. It's just too thin. But I was able to make it work. Thank goodness. I didn't want to cut that out again. I put it on there and I'm going to try to smooth this out, making sure my fingers are dry. I don't want to tear that very thin napkin. And I want to make sure all of these leaves around the little wreath here are down. And again, I had to work with mine a little bit because I distorted it a little bit by adding the glue to the napkin. Otherwise, it would go on there a little bit smoother than what I did. And I want to reinforce making sure everything is glued down. Now, the flowers are, a lot different than the flowers on the placemat itself, but I think they really all go well together. There's a butterfly on there and little wreath. It says Happy Spring, and I think it's the perfect amount of like a spring message and some decor for the center of this pillow. Again, when I'm working with the fabric Mod Podge, I try to do really thin coats, and I'm just drying with my heat gun in between. I know you're supposed to let it cure for a while in between coats, but it's pretty amazing stuff. It works really well. The difference you can tell is the consistency. It is really thick Mod Podge. And I'm wondering if you could do it with regular Mod Podge as well. You might be able to, but this is specifically designed for fabric. I think that looks pretty good. I think we're ready to stuff this pillow. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my cardboard. Really, none of the glue seeped through. And I'm gonna go ahead and glue half my pillow together here, just making a little pocket that I can stuff with some plush. I'm out of the Dollar Tree polyfill, so what I'm gonna do is take an old bed pillow that needed to be replaced anyway, and I always like to recycle the little polyfill inside of these. And so I'm just gonna start tearing that apart and stuffing this. It's pretty large pillow, the placemat itself. And usually when I've made placemat pillows before, I've picked up two placemats. This is such an easier way to do it and cheaper because you're using the fabric on the back. So really you're only buying one thing for $1.25, the placemat, and then I bought the napkins as well, but I only used one of them. Now that I have it stuffed, I'm gonna go ahead and glue the rest of the seam. You really can't tell if this side is not sewn like the others are. I just make sure to glue it nice and straight here where I don't have any of the green fabric peeking out from behind, and that it's all sealed and no polyfill is hanging out. And there it is, our little happy spring pillow. I think it turned out really pretty. What do you guys think? I'm glad I challenged myself to use something from the Dollar Tree because I know not all of you guys do have Cricut machines. And you know what? It was probably easier. Well, maybe besides cutting around all of those leaves. But as you can see, it's completely seamless because I did it that way. I think it's so pretty.